World's Guide.
On February 6, 2023, at 4:17, a 7.8 earthquake struck southern and central Turkey and northern and western Syria. The epicenter was 37 kilometers, 23 miles, west-northwest of Gaziantep. The earthquake had a maximum Mercalli intensity around the epicenter and in Antakya. It was followed by a 7.7 earthquake at 13:24. This earthquake was centered 95 kilometers, 59 miles, north-northeast from the first. There was widespread damage and tens of thousands of fatalities. The 7.8 earthquake is the largest in Turkey since the 1939 Erzincan earthquake of the same magnitude, and jointly the second strongest recorded in the history of the country, after the 1668 North Anatolia earthquake. It is also one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded in the Levant. It was felt as far as Egypt and the Black Sea coast of Turkey. There were more than 10,000 aftershocks in the 3 weeks that followed. The seismic sequence was the result of shallow strike-slip faulting. There was widespread damage in an area of about 350,000 square kilometers, 140,000 square miles, about the size of Germany. An estimated 14 million people, or 16% of Turkey's population, were affected. Development experts from the United Nations estimated that about 1.5 million people were left homeless. The confirmed death toll stood at 59,259 in total, 50,783 in Turkey and 8,476 in Syria. It is the deadliest earthquake in what is now present-day Turkey since the 526 Antioch earthquake and the deadliest natural disaster in its modern history. It is also the deadliest in present-day Syria since the 1822 Aleppo earthquake, the deadliest worldwide since the 2010 Haiti earthquake, and the fifth deadliest of the 21st century. Damages were estimated at $104 billion in Turkey and $14.8 billion in Syria, making them the fourth costliest earthquakes on record. Damaged roads, winter storms, and disruption to communications hampered the Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency's rescue and relief effort, which included a 60,000-strong search and rescue force, 5,000 health workers and 30,000 volunteers. Following Turkey's call for international help, more than 141,000 people from 94 countries joined the rescue effort. There were 50,783 deaths, 297 missing and 107,204 injured across 11 of the 17 affected provinces of Turkey. At least 15.73 million people and 4 million buildings were affected. About 345,000 apartments were destroyed. More than 2 million residents in the affected provinces were evacuated to nearby provinces including Mersin, Antalya, Mardin, Nigda and Konya. More than 20% of Turkey's agriculture production was affected. The United Nations said crops, livestock, fisheries, aquaculture and rural infrastructure were heavily damaged. At least 516 university buildings were affected, of which 106 were heavily damaged. By February 23, 2023, the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change conducted damage inspections for 1.25 million buildings, revealing 164,000 buildings were either destroyed or severely damaged. A further 150,000 commercial infrastructure were at least moderately damaged. The International Organization for Migration estimated over 2.7 million people were made homeless. A damage assessment by the Turkish government revealed at least 61,722 buildings had to be demolished, including 11,900 in Gaziantep province, 10,900 in Hatay province, 10,800 in Kahramanmaraş province and 28,914 in Malatya province. Broad fissures appeared on roads. During recovery efforts, body parts were often found in the rubble. In Adana, 12 buildings collapsed in the city center, 23 were badly damaged and 120 were moderately damaged. 3 apartments were among the buildings that collapsed in the city. Across Adana province, damage assessments revealed 59 buildings and 1,274 apartments were destroyed or required demolition. At least 300 buildings were razed in Malatya. 60% of the city's buildings received damage. Nearly every neighborhood of the city was affected by collapsed buildings. Out of the 968 mosques in the city, 25 were destroyed and 420 others were damaged. The ceiling of Malatya Irhak Airport experienced a partial collapse, as did the historic Yeni Camiye Mosque. Damage was also reported at the Arslantepe Mound. In Akadag, 11 people died, including 4 attributed to the second earthquake. At least 263 deaths were reported in Dogansair. In Gaziantep, many of the historical sites were severely damaged, such as Gaziantep Castle, Servani Mosque and Liberation Mosque. The city recorded 16,211 collapses and buildings which were severely damaged or required demolition. In the city center, at least 154 people died after a 4-story building collapsed. 4 other collapsed buildings left another 102 dead. In Nizip, at least 51 people were killed when a 6-story apartment building collapsed. In Nerdagi, nearly 2,500 people died and about 50% of the houses were badly damaged or destroyed. An additional 30% of its building stock received moderate damage. Mass graves were created to bury the overwhelming number of dead. Gaziantep Oguzeli Airport was forced to restrict its service to rescue flights. 90% of houses were heavily damaged or destroyed in Sakagozu, and 256 people died. In Islahi, there were 1,368 deaths, over 1,500 injuries and more than 200 destroyed apartments. There were over 130 deaths in Sulamagra, 200 in Altanizm, and 300 to 400 in Kakuklu. In Hatay Province, 13,517 buildings collapsed, 8,162 required demolition and 67,346 were heavily damaged. The districts of Antakya, Kirakan and Iskenderun were the most affected. In Antakya, 70% of homes and 6,369 buildings collapsed, 3,734 had to be demolished and 21,830 were badly damaged. The collapse of the luxury Ronsons residence apartment trapped an estimated 800 people and killed 750 residents. The runway of Hatay Airport was split and uplifted, causing flight cancellations. 2 provincial hospitals and a police station were destroyed, and a gas pipeline exploded. Nearly every house in the central and Sebrail districts collapsed. In Iskenderun, an industrial city in Hatay province, a large fire at the port was reported on February 6 at 1700 hours, believed to have originated from a container carrying flammable industrial oil, forcing the port's closure and the diversion of many ships. It was extinguished on the 6th and the 8th of February, only for it to reignite the next day each time. It was finally extinguished on February 10. A total of 3,670 containers were destroyed by the fire, and the port managing authority said it would take 3 months for operations to resume. The city saw 534 buildings collapse, 337 requiring demolition and 4,622 receiving severe damage. In the immediate aftermath, thousands were trapped under rubble when buildings collapsed. Many people were missing in collapsed buildings. Survivors trapped under rubble live-streamed their pleas for help on social media. Some trapped survivors shared their location on social media, which allowed rescuers to reach them. People who lost contact with their relatives also sent pleas on social media. Several tens of thousands of people across the region were left homeless and spent the night in cold weather. Officials had plans to open hotels in Antalya, Alanya and Mersin to temporarily accommodate the affected population. Authorities were slammed by residents in Hatay province, who criticized the insufficient search and rescue efforts. Hatay Airport's runway was heavily damaged, making rescue efforts challenging. On February 7, authorities said 1,846 people in the province had been rescued. Mosques in Turkey were used as shelters for people unable to return to their homes amid freezing temperatures. At least 24 mobile kitchens from vocational schools in the province were distributed across the affected areas. Several Turkish humanitarian institutions such as ABAP from Haluk Levent, the Turkish Philanthropy Funds, US-based, and Turkish Red Crescent, besides other IFRC members around the world, also launched emergency appeals to help the victims. Mosques in Turkey were used as shelters for people unable to return to their homes amid freezing temperatures.
World's Guide